plate. But you started now.
One of these, you mean? It's live. It's live. It's slick live stuff.
You should start the show with that.
Yeah.
And then move it out of the way. I'm mic'd all the time. Yeah. Even while you're talking.
I got it. Look at that! I'm bringing myself in tonight. Our director Katie has taken sick to bed, so I've got to work some of the behind the scenes tech tonight. But as far as you know, everything's going great. Don't worry about it. You're fine. You aren't sick. This is Grassroots Motorsports Live, presented by CRC Industries. I'm JG Pasterjack. We got a great show for you tonight. As you can see, I have a table full of safety gear. I have racks full of safety gear behind me here from Racequip. We're going to be talking all about how to get you ready for your track adventures in 2019 with Patrick Utt in just a few minutes. Before we do that, welcome to the show, everybody. Actually, we got a nice crowd. Everybody wants to see me. Yeah, I offered to set myself on fire tonight, Patrick. So we might have to squeeze that in to the second half of the show. Actually, we'll tease this right now. We might be giving away some wonderfully soft Racequip gloves towards the end of the show, so stick around and maybe you will be able to cover your hands in some Racequip gloves. In the meantime, let's do the stuff we do at the top of every show. We'll say hi to the folks on YouTube over here. Hi, Andrew. We'll say hi to the folks on Facebook, and we'll ask you to do that social media thing. Throw us a like, throw us a share. If you're watching on YouTube, throw us a subscribe. So subscribe to our channel. Get first crack at all of the content we throw on the air. And spare a thought for the nice folks that make this show possible. Talking about our folks, where are they? They're right down here. Look at them, our friends from CRC Industries. Check them out at crcindustries.com. All your automotive and chemical needs. Even better, check them out at a major retailer near you. Or our friends at Autobooks Aerobooks in Burbank, California. Autobooks-aerobooks.com. Tens of thousands of books, magazines, DVDs covering the entire history of transportation and motorsports. Worth the time if you're out in Southern California. Check them out in Burbank. If you can't make it out there, autobooks-aerobooks.com on the web. You'll end up spending a couple hours there. All right, let's get to it. So we've got a lot of stuff to get to tonight. I see a lot of our regulars on, so let's go ahead and introduce our friend Patrick Utt. Patrick, welcome to Ormond Beach, my friend.
Thank you, JG.
Good to see you.
Happy to be here.
Yeah.
Happy to be off of I-4.
Oh, my God. Patrick had to drive over from Tampa this afternoon, and now I know, so a lot of my family's in Southern California. They have to deal with the 10 and the 405 and all that garbage out there. But we have I-4 in Central Florida, and it is as bad as you can possibly imagine a road being anywhere outside of Atlanta or Southern California. It is a hellish nightmare from which there is no recovery. And thank you for making that trip today to bring us this stuff. So let's start with some background here. Sure. We're going to talk about a lot of specific safety stuff that goes on your body and holds your body in place tonight. But tell us how How did you get started in this business? What was the genesis?
Started out my family. My older brother Brian raced IMSA and Trans Am back in the 70s and 80s. So at the age of 12, I was his crew chief.
Oh, wow.
And of course, I couldn't get in the pits, and he'd be strapped in the car, and I'd have to drag the official over, and he'd say, "No, you have to let him in the pits. He's my crew chief." So just grew up around racing and motorsports in the Midwest. And Brian, if you're watching, hey, he's also he owns Carver Race Cars and maintains all my race cars up in Port Washington, Wisconsin.
Oh, cool.
So I have to say hi to him now before he falls asleep. It's past his bedtime. So and if I'm saying hellos, I got to say hi to my guys at the shop: Roger Mealy, Bob Mantell, Fred Cook, and George Ashburn. Those are the guys back at the shop that make it happen.
And we've known Bob forever. It's it's a great crew there. So where does Racequip fit into the hierarchy of safety gear, the pantheon of safety gear? Who is your ideal customer?
The company was actually founded in 1975 by John Schneider, who was a road racer in Columbus, Ohio.
Okay.
And his vision was always to deliver good value. You know, he went the extra mile, built a lot of custom, semi-custom product for people, and didn't charge extra. And in my travels, I saw an opportunity when that company went into bankruptcy 12 years ago and bought the company out of bankruptcy. I was formerly with some magazines myself, you may have heard of. But you know, I thought that it was such a good company and such a good brand and had such a good reputation that it was important that we just stay true to that. So our mission has always been to deliver good value. Okay. You know, we build the best products we can, but still come in at that price point that the entry level or the grassroots racer is looking for. And
looking over some of your stuff, it kind of makes me realize, you know, how quickly things move in the safety world. Some of my gear that I have, which was maybe not top of the line gear when I got it, but you know, moderately mid-range gear. Mm-hmm. This stuff is fantastic compared to the stuff that I thought was awesome 6, 7, 8 years ago.
That's the amazing wonders of technology. You know, it's we you know, I guess in all fairness, we're probably not known as innovators. You know, it's some of those bigger brands or the European brands, you'll see they'll come out with these high-tech fabrics and materials. And, you know, within a couple of years, we have access to that same technology, and we build products in first-class facilities all over the world. So, you know, we can kind of replicate that and still come in at our price point. And our volumes are generally so much higher because we are kind of catering more to the masses.
All right, we're going to start specifically on helmets here a little bit. We'll kind of work our way from the top down, I suppose. But let's start even broader than that. One of the questions we'll get a lot is, a lot of our readers, a lot of our viewers are people that are just getting into motorsports. They're maybe doing track days, they're doing lemons or champ car racing, they're doing, you know, more low-end affordable club racing. When you're just starting out, how do you know what you need? Sure. And I think the big fear for everybody is, well, this sanctioning body requires these specs. What's a good way to not screw myself down the road? That I want to future-proof myself a little bit, but I don't want to future-proof myself for one dime more than I have to.
That's pretty easy. We get that an awful lot. Yeah. And you know, first and foremost, you're going to be required to have a helmet. Hopefully, they say auto racing helmet or a Snell SA rated helmet. Okay. Completely different than a motorcycle helmet. So, you know, we don't build motorcycle helmets. We're an auto racing company. That's all we do. It's a fire retardant helmet with a Kevlar chin strap and a 3mm thick face shield, fire retardant paint, Nomex interior, designed to take impacts against a roll bar, roll cage, and not slide down the highway. So there's motorcycle and auto racing helmets used to be somewhat similar, but the specs have changed over the years and evolved to where they're very divergent, so that it's an apple and an orange now. So you really don't want to wear a motorcycle helmet if you're in a race car. Right. So that's first and foremost. Secondly, you know, we get a lot of people buying or asking questions about open face helmets. Yes, we build an open face helmet. We sell a ton of them. The reality is, though, that if you have a car with a full windshield, you can use that. But if you get into wheel-to-wheel competition, you're going to need a full face helmet. You're not going to be allowed to use an open face. So for the few dollars extra, by few, it's, you know, maybe $50 more, you can have a current full face helmet and not by the open face. And people are a little concerned that they're claustrophobic, this and that. The reality is you get used to it. Once you're behind the wheel and focused, you don't even notice it.
So you may want to have an open face helmet if you talk yourself into, oh, I'm just an autocrosser, but
Sure.
At some point, if you start doing track events, you're going to obsolete yourself out of that.
What tends to happen is I'm just going to go autocrossing. That's all I want. I like an open face helmet. I like how it feels. And then their friends decide to go lemons or champ car racing, and now they're like, oh, I can't use my helmet. Yeah. So it's really important to kind of think that through. We'll talk about future proof. The next thing is you must have a helmet. The other thing is, you may be able to drive with a factory seatbelt, but it's interesting when somebody goes from a factory seatbelt to a proper 5-point racing harness, even though if they're not required to have it for whatever they're doing, they'll find how much time they pick up on the track. You're strapped in the seat. You're not trying to hold yourself in or hold onto the wheel as you're cornering. It makes an incredible amount of difference. You're now focused on your driving and not holding yourself in the seat and all that. So that would be the next thing. Beyond that, it's your interface with the car. It's your hands and your feet. It's the gloves and how they grip the wheel and the feel that you get, and also your feet, the shoes. And a European driving shoe has a very thin sole to the point where they get out of the car, they take them off because they hurt their feet to walk on the pavement. In America, we tend to wear kind of a hybrid type shoe, kind of a thin, soft rubber sole, but still flexible and thick enough to where you can walk around in them all day.
And that's something we talk about on the show a lot. Is I think the human factors aspect of going fast in a race car is kind of underrated. You've got to design your car to be safe and be fast. You also have to design it to be comfortable, I think, and to be ergonomically correct, so you can worry about the job of driving.
If you ever listen to any driver coach, it's about getting comfortable in the car. Of course it's muscle memory and rhythm and all that, but it all comes down to comfort. And those are all pieces of it. The safety gear, the fit, the how you fit in the seat, how tight you are in the seat, how the wheel feels, the distance of the wheel, all of that comfort factors in. So your safety gear is a big part of that.
Okay, let's start talking about helmets a little bit. We have a couple of good questions to lead us into a helmet discussion. And the first one is from Charles over here on YouTube, which is something that's very relevant to me as a full-time wearer of glasses. One of the ways that I need to choose my helmets is something that adapts well to glasses, but at the same time, I know there are some rules and regulations that some sanctioning bodies may have about eye port size, or there's a lot of options out there for eye port size. How do I reconcile the fact that I got to wear these all the time with the fact that I still want to be safe?
Sure. The most important thing is trying a helmet on with glasses. There's just no way around that. And ours may work well for a lot of folks. It may not for others. We actually have kind of a trick with our cheek pads, the way that they're installed in the helmets in the factory, that there's a crease in between the cheek pad and the rest of the liner, and glasses seem to fit perfectly in there, coincidentally. Yeah. And so a lot of folks have said, wow, I can put my glasses on with your helmet, and with brand X I could not. So it's just a little feature that we build in. But when you're talking about eye ports and things like that, a lot of those specifications are more or less set by Snell. Okay. People seem to be concerned about the vision through the eye port, and the reality is you're looking through the center of it. That's like even our Vesta helmet with the goggle style. People go, oh, that bump is going to be in my line of vision. Well, yeah, if you look at it, it's there, but you're looking well past it, so it's really not an issue.
So let's actually talk about your lineup here. What sort of represents the bargain basement of your helmets versus the high end of your lineup?
Sure. So our Pro 15 helmet, which would be this model here, is basically an entry-level Snell SA 2015 auto racing helmet. That's the current Snell specification. It's all the features I mentioned earlier, plus as of the SA 2015 specification, all helmets will now have the built-in M6 threaded insert for a Hans or any head and neck restraint.
So you don't have to go drill your own helmet and try and get it in the right spot.
Correct. Yeah, it's all built in, and that's going to be true with any brand of helmet now in a Snell SA 2015.
So so what's this helmet go for?
$219.95.
And when I look at this, I'm just as somebody who's had a lot of helmets, I'm seeing stuff like a silicone bead here rather than foam, which tends to break down. a little bit of a lip here, like you mentioned, the glasses. Are these cheek pads? Can I buy different size cheek pads?
You know,
for
this isn't the helmet with all the bells and whistles.
Okay.
So the cheek pads, we don't recommend removing them because people snap them in and out all the time, and then they break a snap.
Okay.
So it's not really designed for that. But then again, it's a $219
Right.
Snell SA 2015 helmet with a lot of other features built in. You mentioned the silicone eye port gasket, very important if you race in any kind of dirty environment, rallycross or anything like that. We're actually big in the oval track market as well. Dirt racers love our helmet because we don't put vents on the front and we have a good sealing gasket.
And just big because 9 times out of 10, this is going to go back in the bag covered with your nasty dude sweat all over it. And all that foam stuff is going to start to break down, and sure. I've had foams go bad after 6 months on some of these. So as we move up the ladder, what differentiates the top of the line from the entry level helmet? The safety spec is the same. They all meet
they all meet the same standard. And really what you get into then is different materials and different features. You mentioned our chin spoiler. That's good in an open cockpit car. Kind of prevents the helmet from lifting on you, from the airflow over the top. We build most of our helmets with what we call an FRP, fiber reinforced polymer. It's a fancy way of saying it's like a fiberglass hybrid material, composite, made up of maybe fiberglass, Kevlar, and a little bit of carbon. But from there you can move up into Kevlar helmets, which we offer, or a full carbon helmet that we offer. So,
so the weight goes down, and are there maybe some more features?
And the weight, surprisingly, the difference between a well-made fiberglass helmet and a carbon or Kevlar helmet, it isn't as great as you'd think. Unless you're spending a lot of time in the car, the average person isn't ever going to notice the difference. I mean, I can wear anything I want. I take anything off the shelf and go racing with it myself. I have a fiberglass helmet. I'm in the car from 20 minutes to an hour at a time. So it doesn't make a difference.
And you're driving a TA2 car these days, right? So that's going to be fairly exciting, especially coming from a Trans Am background.
Yeah.
Now
Well,
in that series.
see, here's the thing. My brother's best finish in a Trans Am race was 12th. Back in the day, in the 80s, when they'd have 45-car fields at Road America and things like that.
First time you finished 11th is probably pretty exciting.
Well, unfortunately, I haven't done a Trans Am race yet, so I don't have bragging rights for the family yet. I've been just testing. My body work was outlawed. It wasn't going to be legal, but now they've decided to make it legal for 2 more years. It's the Camaro bodywork. So now I can go Trans Am racing and try to get family bragging rights.
Nice. Okay, let's talk about fitting a little bit, because that's I think one of the most important things when you're buying a helmet. I just got a new helmet.
Mm-hmm.
I
hope it was a Racequip.
I'll talk about. I'm sorry it wasn't, but I've had
those guys need some business.
I've had yours before, but I tried on several, and I kind of made my decision on what felt best on my head.
Right.
Not everybody can buy a bunch of helmets, try them on. What advice do you give to somebody that wants to try a bunch of helmets on? Is there some place you can go? Is there some magic formula?
That's always a tough thing because we sell apparel. It's very personal. You want to try it on. You want to see how it fits, how it feels. It's very personal, obviously. So we try to do a good job of listing on our website dealers that actually stock the product, where you can walk in and try the product on. And we even list full line stocking dealers and partial, so you can kind of get a heads up that this company might not have everything. So it's also important to kind of know
that was just from you.
If you're, I got it. I just didn't think it was funny. So.
Thanks for joining us, everybody. The Patrick Ott Show has been sponsored by Racequip.
Will not be invited back. So, but it's important to try it on, and so when you go to some of the regional trade shows and things like that, you can try on gear. Any good safety supplier or retailer is going to have a good supply to try on. If you're buying online, you can look at a size chart. We produce a very accurate size chart of all of our products and talk about how to measure yourself for those products. And you take a measurement 1 inch above your eyebrows and measure twice, cut once, and then that was a joke. It's not funny, right?
We're both working about the same level tonight, Patrick.
But if you take that measurement, you're going to be able to pick the helmet that's more than likely going to fit you best. But just be aware of what the return policy is of whoever
Yeah.
you're buying from, because you may get the helmet, it may not fit. And one piece of advice for the racers is do not buy a helmet and have it shipped to your helmet painter and have it painted before you try it on.
Yeah, or don't buy a helmet 3 days before the race you have to go to. Maybe
Yeah.
give it some. And actually, that's a great segue. We had somebody else. Somebody asked about helmet painting. My new helmet is actually with a painter right now. What are the safety legalities involved in doing something like that? I mean, this is somebody who's experienced in doing helmets, but are there questions you should ask your painter before they start painting?
The reality is the paint or the clear coat that's on the helmet is fire retardant.
Okay.
So if you don't remove all of that, there's still a fire retardant layer on the helmet. So that's kind of a contentious point. Some people will say, oh, you don't paint a helmet, or if you do, you must use this or that, or can't use this. And, it's, we kind of walk that line saying, yeah, well, just be careful what you use, but there is still a layer of fire retardant paint on that helmet.
Okay. So I was looking at this cross section earlier, which is fascinating, and walk us through there a little bit.
Sure.
Because I'd never really given that much thought to what was in a helmet.
We used to get a lot of questions about, well, what's inside it and what's this, and we talk about EPS, expanded polystyrene foam, and people are kind of confused as to what that is and what that looks like. So we decided to just cut a helmet in half, make a display, take it to the trade shows, and it was very popular. So this shows everything. I'll go from the outside in. So the outer layer is what we call a composite shell. Again, it's carbon Kevlar composite woven material. Several layers of that. And then we've got the EPS, expanded polystyrene foam, which is more or less the standard of the industry in helmet manufacturing for at least auto racing helmets. And then we have a foam liner, which is kind of a comfort liner, but again, it's covered in fire retardant, Nomex material. And you can see the width of a face shield, or the thickness of the face shield, is 3 millimeters. That's for both impact resistance and fire retardant.
Okay.
See, you've got Kevlar chin strap, which in order to be fire retardant, it has to be Kevlar basically. And it's kind of a quick snapshot of what's inside your helmet.
So you were telling me earlier that in order to get a helmet Snell certified or FIA certified, you've got to pass a certain barrage of tests that they put them through. But they don't necessarily care how you pass those tests.
Correct.
As long as you pass it. They don't care what the helmet looks like, what it's made out of. It just has to pass those tests. So there's no there's no standards that says you've got to have this thickness of polystyrene.
Right. They're going to tell you what impact they're going to test and exactly where on the helmet. So it's they try not to give you too much guidance as far as what materials you can and cannot use and things like that, because that's obviously ever evolving, and it allows us to do some experimentation and find better ways to do things. Again, we talk about technology and getting the cost of gear down now. Helmets today cost less than they did when I started racing in the 80s, and yet they're so much better. They're so much better and lighter.
Yeah. So in the time you've been doing this, you've been doing this for a while, what's been the biggest difference you think in the actual design and construction of the helmets? I
think you're seeing, just like in all of motorsports, you see that transfer of technology, whether it's from the OEs or from aerospace, and you just see all those new materials.
Keep going.
Okay. Bless you. But that's just it. It's really transfer technology. The way we build a helmet, in the old days it would be a hand layup process. Now we use tool steel molds, and it's a heat compression process. We use a pre-preg material in the mold instead of wetting up stuff and putting it in. So we're not putting any excess resin into the piece, and there again keeping the weight down. So it's just kind of all these technologies that have evolved, and we're applying them just like they are in every industry.
Gotcha. Okay, we got a couple good questions that we'll deal with. Zach first, and then Jeff's got a good question over on YouTube there. Worst case scenario, something happens where you need your helmet.
Yes.
The thing about safety equipment is you hope you never need a stitch of this stuff, but if you do need a helmet, your helmet is involved in an impact. how do you know that helmet is no longer usable, or
Sure.
what's the procedure for figuring out whether a helmet?
It's a question we get quite often, and you know, usually over the phone. And of course, we can't see the helmet over the phone, but we do ask people to send pictures in.
If they speak with a slur, you probably know.
Yeah, tell them go back to the hospital.
Yeah.
This cutaway is actually a really good tool for kind of explaining that. You see this what we call the EPS liner, the white styrofoam there. It's very soft, and when it takes an impact, it will dent and it will deform. It will not rebound. So even though the fiberglass shell will indent and pop back, so now it's hidden damage in the helmet.
Okay.
So a helmet, we say, is good for one hit. It's done its job, throw it away, put it on the shelf as a trophy. It can no longer be used safely, because if it takes another impact, you're not going to get protection there.
Okay.
So it's kind of hard to say, but I'll give you kind of a general guideline. I mean, we can look at helmets, we inspect helmets that come back, and if it's, kind of chip paint, gel coat, you're probably okay. When we see that the fiberglass has deformed and cracked, or there's any hair showing, definitely you don't want to use that helmet again. So, that's why people talk about, if they drop their helmet versus they throw it down. Throw down, that helmet shouldn't be used again. Okay. If it falls off the table, I'm a cheap racer like everybody else. I'm going to say it's probably
it's
okay.
Fine. It's good.
But use common sense, and you can always contact the manufacturer, send it in to them to inspect, or even send pictures. Sometimes we can tell a lot from a picture.
All right, let's talk about dates a little bit, because that's a good question, because all safety equipment is dated. Or most
date of manufacture, yeah,
is dated, and some of those dates are sort of more relevant than others when it comes to things aging out. Tell us, so the current up-to-date spec on helmets is SA 2015.
15, right.
How long is a helmet good for,
right,
legally, and what,
sure,
what do those dates actually mean?
Okay, so every 5 years, the Snell Foundation comes out with a new set of specifications, and that, again, it's a moving target. The helmet safety standards are always moving forward.
Right.
Some cycles more than others. So sometimes you'll actually see where the shell size of the helmets will grow from one cycle to the next, because the standard was raised, and in order to get more liner in there, they had to make the shell bigger. So so every 5 years that spec changes, and generally the manufacturers will all try to use whatever existing molds and pieces that they can, but it is a moving target. So that it's important to know that when the specification changes, those helmets are available on October 1st of the year of the new cycle.
Okay.
So when we say the 2020 helmets will be the next helmet, they will be available in October 2020, October 1st. We cannot ship a helmet before October 1st, 2020.
Okay.
So what generally happens is January 1st of 2020, everybody's like ready to buy their new helmet, and they're all mad that they aren't available, but due to the way the Snell cycle works, nobody can sell a helmet until October. So how long is a helmet good for? Most series or sanctions or tracks will allow you to use a helmet back 2, maybe even 3 Snell cycles, but generally 2, 1 or 2, depending on the sanction you run with. As far as how often you use the helmet, how long it will last, after about 5 to 8 years, that's probably pretty funky.
And honestly, if you're racing even half a dozen times a year, you're lucky to get 4 or 5 years out of a helmet just from wear and tear.
Yeah. I mean, just your sweat and anything on your hair or face, it will get into the foam and it starts to break down. So, yeah, about 4 or 5 years, maybe 8 at the most.
It's a
if you don't race a lot.
extreme environment. That's a good question, actually, because I've towed a car back from a track and opened it up and got a whiff of my gear bag out of there, and it's not pleasant. And what's the proper way to clean the inside of one of these things?
Well, first of all, your gear shouldn't be in the trailer.
Well,
you got to keep it. No, really,
everybody
does it. Everybody does it. But that's part of it too. Is get it inside in the air conditioning, in the dry air, and all of your gear will last longer. Okay. So that's important. We've seen different helmet dryers and things like that on the market. There's really no harm in that. You probably don't want to use heat, but just blow air. But really, just set it. I mean, I just set my helmet upside down with the face shield open and just let it dry out, and enjoy the aroma.
Yeah. Do you try and avoid? Do you specifically avoid chemicals? Is there any chemicals that will Febreze break down the materials eventually?
I haven't heard of any problems with Febreze. I know a lot of people have done that, and I don't see really any issue with it. I tend to put on a fresh head sock every time I go out.
Okay.
Of course, I have a warehouse full of them, so it's easy for me. If I have 6 sessions a day, I couldn't have 6, head socks. So, but that's important too. That's not just good, personal protection. It's actually good for the helmet to wear that. Just remember that though when you're fitting your helmet. If you're going to wear a head sock, and are you going to wear a 1 layer or 2 layer? It's anywhere from 1 centimeter to 1.5 centimeters. It will add to your measurement.
So if we're talking about a helmet that's like a medium versus a large versus an XL, will that bump you up a size generally if you're looking at
potentially? What would more than likely what would happen is if you're on the verge of needing the next size up, and then you put the head sock on, you'll realize it's too tight. Yeah. So you would go to the next size.
And we had somebody make a good comment earlier that there's a break-in period for these things too. They had a helmet from a different brand that fit considerably different after the first few months.
That foam interior will break in a little bit, but as you notice, it's maybe a 1/2 inch. So it's very lightweight. It's not very dense foam. Cheek pads, same thing. If it's got good pressure on your cheeks, it's going to lessen a little bit, but it's not going to completely go away. And if it does, that helmet doesn't fit properly.
Yeah, and your haircut can. I mean, if you've got a big 1973 Brian May haircut going on, your helmet's going to fit a lot different than if it's the 1973 Freddie Mercury haircut.
There you go.
So all right, cool. We've spent a lot of time on this. We still have a lot of stuff to cover. Let's work our way down because I know we got some other stuff to set up, and we'll do that when we take a break. But let's work our way down the body a bit, and let's talk about suits and underwear because I think I was most impressed by this. I have a mid-range suit, but now it's getting kind of old. It is a piece of crap compared to this thing, just from the respect of the features it has in it, like these 360-degree shoulder gussets and
the expansion panel. Well, this is our new Chevron 5 suit that we just came out with. It's a Nomex suit. Comes in at $369.
Which is it's crazy.
Yeah, it's a 2-layer Nomex suit, so it's a fairly lightweight suit. The built-in features, as you mentioned, the arm gusset. It's got a stretch panel in the back. And it's got side stretch panels that run all the way up the side of the suit. Makes a big difference. It's got a belt. It's got proper epaulets. We've got black cuffs on everything and boot cuff, which is the world has voted and they want boot cuffs.
Yeah, I know. The world voted opposite. I'm a big fan of the springy.
The peg
cuffs,
leg.
But I also like. I think proper baseball attire includes knee-length pants and stirrups. So that's just me. So. One thing I learned fairly recently was the epaulets on a driving suit are actually useful. They're there not just to look cool, but
those were those go back to the battlefield where they put epaulets on the uniform so that the soldiers could be dragged, injured soldiers could be dragged off the field. And that was the idea in a driver's suit to extricate the driver. Of course, we don't really do that anymore, but back in the day of Formula Car racing, they did do that. We actually build ours that they could be used. It's a proper epaulet. It's not just decoration.
So when I'm suit shopping, what are the questions I'm asking? What is my sanctioning body going to look for, and how do I know I'm getting something? Do I have to wear underwear with everything now? Are there underwearless suits available?
For road racing, sports car racing in general, it's pretty simple because if you have an SFI 5 suit, which is generally going to be a 2 or 3 layer suit, it meets an SFI 5 specification. The proper specification is 3.2A/5, the last digit. There's also a 1, which is actually a single layer suit. But if you have a 5 suit, you generally don't need underwear because a single layer suit and underwear equals the same protection as a 5 suit. So it's kind of an either or. Now, I wear a 5 suit and underwear.
What he's saying is you don't need fireproof underwear. You probably should, just out of pure politeness to your friends, wear something under there so you're not stripping the thing off.
Yeah. Well, and
although some of these Lemons Race series, they're into that kind of stuff.
Well, and speaking of my underwear, this is our new line of fire retardant underwear we've done. It's all SFI rated. You'll notice it's all got tags on it. Even the socks, we put tags on the socks because some sanctions say you must have, fire retardant socks. It's the only way you can prove.
And this, this feels like T-shirt material to me. This feels
it's
really,
it's a
really
blended
soft.
aramid, man-made fabric, aramid and cotton hybrid. Fire retardant cotton. So it's a good blend of gives you comfort and moisture wicking, breathability. And then, we do it black because people seem to want the black underwear. The white stuff comes up kind of off-white. It looks funky. And we do this for $59 for a top or a bottom.
So what do these specifications mean? If I've got an SFI, SFI 5 suit,
right.
What does that mean to me?
It translates to TPP, thermal protection performance. And the way that works is, let's say the minimum specification for an SFI 5 suit is a TPP 18. It's just a number. It has to do with the amount of time until the wearer would receive second-degree burns in a gasoline fire. Okay, so it does have some correlation with an auto racing suit. You cut that number in half, and that's how many seconds you have. Okay, so in 18, you got 9 seconds to get out of the car. Doesn't seem like a lot when you really think about it.
Yeah. But if you're on fire,
you're on fire. But you got a lot of gear on, radios and head and neck restraints, everything else. And our suits generally we build like this suit is, I believe, a 25 or 26 TPP, so well above the minimum standard. So again, you're getting more like 12 or 13 seconds.
Gotcha. Got some good questions coming in from YouTube. First one is that Jeff. These are going to get kind of dirty and stinky too.
Right.
Washing machine, dry clean. How do you care for this?
Dry clean or kind of gentle machine wash.
Oh, really?
Yeah, machine wash is okay. You want to use a very gentle cleanser like a Woolite or something like that. Cold water, never heat on your safety gear.
Okay.
That means no hot water, no dryer. Okay, air fluff or something, but no heat. So again, gentle wash, prefer to line dry or hang dry.
And what about alterations? I mean, I'm thick up here and stumpy little legs, so usually most off-the-shelf driver suits going to be a little bit long. If I need to have this altered somewhere, is there something special that I'm going to have to tell whoever's doing my alterations? Is there a special? Is there fireproof thread that I can supply them?
So first of all, at Racequip, we tend to build our product for Americans, not skinny Europeans.
Yes.
Okay, so again, we talk about checking the size chart, and that's really important because a lot of guys go, I wear a large. Well, not every suit manufacturer is building a large the same way, and there's big variation. A lot of guys will say, I took a large in that, and I take a medium in yours. So, but they bought a large first. So always look at the size chart. That's very important to save you a lot of hassle. And so first and foremost, again, everybody's varies. Ours tends to be a little on the husky side. Secondly, alterations, you want to have the manufacturer you're buying from able to do that if you do need it. Or a custom suit. We're not big on the custom suit side. We do have a small custom shop in Irmo, South Carolina that can do some modifications to the suits and stuff, but it's not a big part of our business. We're trying to be about off the shelf.
Gotcha. So you probably shouldn't take it to a local tailor.
They all have access to Nomex thread.
Okay.
If they know what they're doing, sometimes what you run into is the amount of layers.
Okay.
They have a little trouble getting their needle through. It depends on the machine that they use and whatnot. But a good seamstress should know what they're doing.
So you're assuming some risk, but
Yes.
it probably can be done. A good question about underwear actually. So if you legally, you probably won't need underwear under this. You should still probably choose to wear it. And wear that. If you're not going to wear an SFI underwear, is there anything you should avoid under that? Should you stick with all cotton underneath? I know a lot of people. I've seen people wearing like Under Armour type athletic gear, which has a lot of nylon. That seems to be
that's
something
got
you
an
want to
acrylic
avoid.
in it. That is the last thing you want to wear.
Because that's just if you are involved in a fire,
that will
it's
melt.
going to melt and stick to you.
It will melt. Even the suit might not even show a lot of damage, but that will melt underneath the suit. So, so you're really better off if you're to wear just nothing. I mean, pure cotton, probably okay, but there's elastic in the collars, there's elastic in the waistband of your underwear, so that that will melt into your skin too. So I hate to be that guy talking about that, but this costs a lot less than skin grafts. So it's cheap insurance. The other thing is, just like we talked about wearing a head sock with the helmet, wearing the underwear under your suit. So you've got another session or two that day, change out the underwear, and you got a dry suit.
And the suit's going to stay cleaner. It's going to be less stinky. What is the? That's a great question from Mac on YouTube. The actual fire retardant properties of these things. What is that? Is that a chemical the suit's treated with? Is it the inherent material it's built with?
There's two different avenues. One is a man-made fiber, an aramid, like Nomex from DuPont. It's almost like a monofilament kind of fiber that's woven then into suits. So that tends to have very good, it's inherently fire retardant, but it has some other properties that cause it to kind of melt when exposed to flame. It still self-extinguishes, which is important. And let's point out here, people use, the term fireproof, but really auto racing safety gear is fire retardant because it will burn when there's a flame on it, but as soon as it's removed from the flame, it self-extinguishes. And so that's what it's designed to do, is give you time to kind of get out of the car. We talk about like a Nomex, a man-made fiber. Then there's also cotton-based fabrics. In the old days, they talked about taking suits and dipping them in borax, and they would be fire retardant until you washed them 3 times and things like that.
They were also smoking half the time they were racing too. So
that's right. So that evolved to basically taking cotton and getting the fire retardant chemicals to adhere at a molecular level. So they're kind of embedded in the fabric, and it doesn't wash out. So that's how, when we talk about FRC, fire retardant cotton, it's Banox, Pyrovatex. There's 100 different trade names you'll see like that.
Gotcha. All right, we're spending a lot of time on this because it's interesting. We're getting good questions, but we got a bunch of stuff to cover.
Okay.
So I'll tell you what. I got to pay some bills. Why don't you get the helmets off and get the belts ready to go? When we come back, we'll talk about. I definitely want to get to gloves and shoes, and we'll talk about belts a little bit.
Okay.
But I will spend a minute with Chris. Come on over. First off, I want to wish a very special happy birthday to the gentleman holding this camera right here. Hi, Chris. Happy birthday. It was Chris's birthday yesterday. Yay! So three cheers for him. I want to let you guys know about the folks that make this show possible, talking about our friends from CRC. There's a can of freeze-off sitting right here on the lift, not because we staged it for the show, but because I was under the Corvette the other day spraying off all of the exhaust bolts, because we're getting ready to put some headers on this thing, getting ready to put some exhaust pieces on this thing. I want to make sure everything is nice and loose when it's time to pull that stuff off. And this stuff is squirted in every corner of the shop because we like it a lot. And beyond us liking it, they support this world we live in, this world of amateur and professional motorsports. So when you are looking for automotive chemicals, you got to buy some brake cleaner. You know you're going to buy CRC brake cleaner. You got to buy some lubricant. You know you're going to be going with something like CRC Freeze Off or the Power Lube. You're getting good stuff. You're also giving a little bit back to the community, and that's why we appreciate you doing it. So check them out at major retailers: Lowe's, Home Depot, O'Reilly, Napa, Advanced Auto Parts. Wherever you're buying chemicals, they're going to have this stuff there, and we really, really appreciate it when you pick this stuff up. And we also appreciate it if you go hit their social media up, tell them that you watch GRM live and you like that CRC is a part of it. That means a lot to them. We actually went through and cleaned all of our lenses with the display cleaner and stuff. So we are fans. Also, let us check in with our friends at Autobooks Aerobooks. Matt Stone is going to show us a little. So Autobooks sent us a few of these videos where they're displaying some new products. And I love the stuff they're showing us, but just as much as that, I love looking in the background for all of the amazing Easter eggs in that store, because it is like a museum. It's like watching these little Autobook spots is like watching the Avengers 4 trailer and just seeing, oh my God, like, I think that's Wolverine's foot. I think he's actually in the movie. Like, there's so much cool stuff going on in there. So I will go over and start this, and we will have a word from our friend Matt Stone at Auto Books.
Hi, my name is Matt Stone, and I'm here at Auto Books, Aero Books in Burbank, California. I'd like to congratulate my friends Tom Madigan and Ed Justice Jr. for their new book called Legacy of Justice, all about the Justice family and their products and businesses and fabulous racing exploits. This is great, great stuff. This book is just out, hardbound, heavy and thick and wonderful, and chock full of fabulous old stories. So you can get it, order right now from autobooks-aerobooks.com. And happy holidays, y'all.
Perfect. Okay, you can talk now.
Awesome. So yeah, check them out at Autobooks, Aerobooks, autobooks-aerobooks.com. Tens of thousands of books, magazines, DVDs, videos, collectibles, all kinds of great stuff from the entire history of transportation. If you're out in Southern California, or even if you're in San Diego, it's worth the trip up to Burbank to check the place out, because you might catch a famous author there. You might catch Jay Leno there. You might catch Tommy Kendall there. All kinds of cool stuff going on in the shop. It is a hub of automotive activity in Southern California. All right, back to the table. So, Patrick, you've moved a lot of stuff around. Let me bring this over here, because we had an interesting conversation about this. This is well, actually, it's no longer my current pair of gloves because they've worn themselves out. This is a pair of gloves that I was using that we've hidden the name, but something that started to happen to these is they've just kind of started to break down. The Velcro tabs have come off. When I put them on at a race recently, I noticed that this seam was starting to pull out of there. So what am I looking at on these that has kind of failed that I might want to look at?
I know you're going to deny it, but I see a lot of racers do this. The glove has a Velcro closure on it, keep it nice and stuck. And what they do is they just jam their hand in it, and that stresses the seams. So it's important to always undo the Velcro and then tighten it. So, and if you didn't do that, then it's a lot of wear and tear. I don't know if they get wet, you sweat in them. Yeah. I don't know if you've tried to clean them or wash them. All those things will affect the longevity. Being on that seam there, that looks like, when you're pulling it on. Yeah. My guess is that when they ran it through the serger, which is a sewing machine, it was probably cut a little too close. Some of the thread was exposed and it failed. So that would be my guess, and I'm just glad to see they're not Racequip gloves. So.
Yeah, no, they're not. So if I'm sizing up a new pair of gloves, what am I gonna kind of look at to say, okay, this is a high quality pair of gloves? Give me some.
So you've got everything from non-SFI gloves. They're single layer Nomex and maybe a white calfskin palm. That's kind of a entry level glove. If you're racing in any sanction, they're probably going to require an SFI rating on the glove. So we build like a single layer SFI 1 rated glove. Okay. We tend to use a lot of suede. It just makes such a nice glove. Gives you a nice grip on the wheel, soft and supple, and they don't get crusty, kind of like the white. Calfskin or goat skin. So we do make one like that though for the old school racers who insist on it. Okay.
The full front palm there, which is great.
But basically we start with our single layer glove for $39.95. It's SFI 1. And we do everything in black, red, and blue generally. Okay. And then we do a SFI 5 2-layer Nomex glove for $49.95. And then we've got some new gloves, and this is an outseam glove. We do it two different ways in these two color combinations. We do one with a cuff style gauntlet and one with the long gauntlet.
And talk a little bit. So we might, if we can talk Patrick into it, might be giving away a pair of gloves tonight. Absolutely. Which is it? Dealer's choice here. Which pair of gloves are we giving away tonight?
We'll do a pair of our outseam gloves. Okay. You get a choice of the black and red or the black and gray, and you get a choice on the cuff of whether you want this style gauntlet or the elastic cuff style. Okay. And of course your choice of size.
Oh, and so I think we're gonna do this. No guarantees yet. I want to see some shares coming in on Facebook, and I want to see some people subscribing to the YouTube feed. And we're going to have a very simple trivia question you can answer. If you've been paying attention, you know the answer to it already. So stick around. Maybe you win a pair of gloves out of this thing. I want to say something about the outseam gloves, because I tried these on earlier, and based on the looks of these, I may need to send you out of here with an American Express card. But what a huge difference it makes with that seam on the other side. So basically what we call an out seam glove, all of the seams are
reversed,
exposed.
Yeah. And this started in Formula One. You know, you see the drivers, you're like, what's going on with that glove?
Yeah.
Well, this is a perfect example. 5 years ago, these were, you know, probably $800, $900, $1,000 a set, and Formula One drivers have them. Today they're $69.95 from Racequip. And you know, we can talk about how awesome they are all day long. We do a lot of shows, and we found that the best thing is somebody's looking at it and they're kind of not sure. You just go, put it on. You put it on, you're like, wow, that you can really feel the difference. You don't realize what the seams in a glove feel like until you try on a glove without those seams.
So safety-wise or feature-wise here, this one doesn't have any Velcro on the back, which I kind of like. The specific cut of the wrist here, does that mean anything
No,
to me,
it's
or is
just
that
styling.
just to kind of look badass?
Styling, yeah. And you know, we found a clever way to tuck the SFI tag into the seam.
Okay.
You know, so you don't have a big old SFI tag in there either, or to get hung up on anything.
And what am I going to need to be legal? What's the minimum requirement?
Well, these are depends on your series or sanction. Generally, if you know, it's one of those things where just like if you have an SFI 5 suit, you're going to be good anywhere. If you have an SFI 5 glove, you're going to be good anywhere. You know,
Gotcha.
it's a current Snell helmet, you're good anywhere.
So, all right, let's move all the way to the bottom, and then we'll talk about belts a little bit. Somebody actually mentioned earlier that they were autocross in skateboard shoes, which I like a lot myself. I like a nice flat-soled shoe.
Right.
I've worn European driving shoes before. They're too thin. I think there's something to be said for having a little bit of sole to have some leverage on the pedals. What are some of the design considerations in there?
Things you know, point out the features of our shoe, but they're things you could look for in any shoe. You know, a lightweight racing shoe, a roll-up heel, because your heel's constantly being worked. We put a little Achilles cutout here because you're constantly flexing your foot. It's obviously a SFI rated fire retardant shoe. Has to cover the ankle as part of the SFI specification, by the way. A lot of people want a low top
no
shoe,
low cuts.
but they would not be SFI rated. Okay. So this is a suede with a fire retardant interior. One of the things that we do that doesn't seem like a very big deal, but it's a big difference between our shoe and many others on the market. We put a proper insole in the shoe. And it doesn't look like much, but when you're walking around in them all day on pavement, it makes a huge difference. So this is kind of one of the little added features. Carbonell wear pads on the shoe, that's important. You know, you're always rubbing up against something in the foot box. Remember, a racing shoe is going to tend to be more narrow. So if you have a wide foot, you might want to go up a half a size. And they will break in. They are suede leather, they will stretch, so when you put them on, they might be tight for the first day and even the second day. By the third day, they've kind of taken a set to your foot. Double stitching is another feature that we incorporate. We happen to use reverse stitching on this shoe. A soft, supple, flexible sole is important as opposed to something that's just, you know, hard as a rock. And that's, you know, nice rounded edges on everything as well makes a difference. So this is our Euro shoe, sells for $89.95, by the way.
See, that's, I mean, a good pair of Vans is $90, and these.
That's a proper driving shoe. You know?
But this is also a shoe that you don't have to take off immediately upon exiting the car.
Yeah.
This is a shoe, as we like to say, this is the shoe you could wear to the driver's meeting. So the coolest guys at the race have their driver suits on at the driver's meeting. Actually, the coolest guys have their suits on at the breakfast buffet at the hotel. But if you got your suit on at the driver's meeting, you're a racer. Well, you have to tie it around the waist and be shirtless. So, okay, so let's.
You've seen me at the races, then, haven't you?
Talk about socks a little bit, because that's I think something we don't talk about enough.
Right.
Any different specifications for socks?
No, we build a Nomex sock basically, and it's you know, the main thing is, you know, you'll see rules that say you have to have a fire retardant sock or a Nomex sock, and you know, you look at a sock, you're like, how do you know? So ours actually has the SFI tag on it. It seems like a silly thing, but it's a lot of people, when we came out with ours, were like, oh my God, thank God, somebody finally made a sock with an SFI tag on it. So their sanction was saying, these, how do I know these socks are fire retardant? You know, so.
I think I have this sort of rule of thumb that I think for every 100 racers, there's only like 65 pairs of socks. I don't know. I can't tell you how many times I've seen people in a tech line passing socks behind their back to the next guy.
Yeah.
Seems like the thing that everybody kind of forgets. Okay, so let's. This is fantastic info and stuff that I've learned. let's tie it all together with the stuff that holds all this in, and which is the belts. And the one thing I definitely want to get to tonight is, let's talk about and we could do this every week and people still wouldn't understand. Let's talk about the proper way to thread belts, because I don't think enough people.
It's something that, being in the safety business, as I walk through the paddock area and look at cars in line or just in their paddock area, I'm always looking at the belts and how they're mounted. That's the biggest mistake I see. There's on our website is actually SFI approved and an industry standard for how to mount your seat belts. So there's some important things to keep in mind. Number one is, whether you bolt in or wrap around. If you use a three-bar slide, be sure that once you have mounted that belt, that you have added this locking stitch.
Do you want to? We could just go demonstrate one here if you want to. We'll do a full wraparound.
Okay.
You sent us a diagram of this earlier, and the first thing I did was I was checking the email in my office here, and I walked over to the Corvette to make sure I had done it right, because it's not something you do every day unless you're building cars. It's something you do once or twice while you have a car.
So, I don't do it every day either. So, but anyways, so you're gonna wrap. You're gonna wrap around. You're gonna come back through. Okay.
And I think a lot of people
we see a lot of belts installed that way.
Stop right there. Yeah.
Seems good and sturdy. Well, this will actually unfurl.
Yeah.
So it's important you take this as a locking stitch and pass it back through. I left it a little short here, but ideally that would be a little longer. And you pass it back through the 3-bar slide. And the trick is, when you look at a set of belts mounted, you want to see one of the bars, just one. If you see two, they're installed improperly.
And that's something that from my experience, they actually will check in tech quite a bit.
Right, they should be, yeah.
And make sure those are threaded properly.
Mm-hmm. I'd like to point out a couple quick things on belts, unless you got a specific question.
No, well, actually, just a good lead-in from Zach here. Like we were talking about with the helmets earlier, impact on the belts. Once there's been an impact,
right?
How do we? Is all of this stuff single use basically?
It really is. Belts are like a helmet. They're good for one impact, and the reason is because they're stretch. The belts will stretch, and you can't always see the stretch. With a trained eye, you kind of can. You see the puckers in the patches. You see the broken stitches and whatnot. But the reality is that you look at them, like, they look okay. I'll put them in the other car. So the reality is they stretch up to 15 to 18% in an impact, and
which is what they're designed to do. They're absorbing that energy.
They're slowing your body down, and so they won't stretch again. So in another impact, you have the belts nice and tight. They're not going to stretch. All that force is going into your body. So that's very important. A lot of tracks, like in the oval track world, somebody crashes their car, gets brought in on a wrecker. They cut the belts out of the car. They make sure that they're not going to reuse those belts. So I think that's actually a good rule. Not because I want to sell more belts, but
I think that's a great rule, because I think you would have a lot of...
They're protecting us against ourselves, So
they should drill a hole in your helmet at the same time.
So a couple of things to look for in belts. There's the latch and link style belts. We use what we call a duck head design on the lever, so that if you wear arm restraints or something, you can't get underneath it and accidentally unlatch the belts.
Okay.
But this is what we call a latch and link style, where you have all the links and they all hook into a latch.
Bring those over here, Patrick.
You saying I got short arms?
No, I'm saying we're a flexible show.
So we now make all of our belts available with what we call a Han shoulder, or a head and neck restraint shoulder. So it just makes it a little easier to work with a lot of the head and neck restraints to have the 2-inch.
Yeah. So tell me about 2-inch versus 3-inch. I like this step design. Is a full 2-inch set of belts also legal in most regards? When do you make that decision?
Probably the easiest way to say that is, if you have 2-inch belts over your shoulder, they're fine if you have a head and neck restraint on. Okay. If you're ever going to go out and not run with a head and neck restraint, you should not use those belts. Okay. Somebody says, well, sometimes I wear it, or when I race this sanction I wear it, but when I don't wear it. They should have 3-inch belts. But Otherwise, 2-inch, over the shoulder is fine as long as you always have a head and neck restraint.
And what about a 2-inch lap?
2-inch lap, that's kind of a new theory about how the 2-inch lap fits under your iliac crest as opposed to going over it. And it's kind of a school of thought, and a lot of people subscribe to that. We kind of took the position saying, yeah, I see the validity of that, but we kind of like 3-inch
More
too.
surface
So you know what,
area
we'll
is-
build both.
Okay.
The customers that want a 2-inch, we've got a 2-inch. If they want a 3-inch, we've got some new 2-inch belts coming in.
And how about a 5-point versus 6-point? Where are we making that determination?
A 5-point is really going to do a good job of just locating the lap belt over your pelvis, and that's really, as much as people think that the crotch strap is to stop you from submarining going out under the belts, it's really more important that it positions the belts over your pelvis, because the only bones in your body that can really withstand the impact is your pelvis and your shoulders. So that way, if you don't have a crotch strap, we see a lot of guys that say don't want to use a crotch strap in a street car or something, those belts ride up, and now in an impact that's not over their pelvis, they're going to get an internal injury. So 6-point tends to put the belts outward over the thigh and give you more area. So I'm a fan of 6-point. I like 6-point belts. That's what I use.
It provides some real estate for
Yeah.
things to. Okay.
Yeah.
So somebody made that comment that their 5-point belt. They were a couple registers higher in the octaves after.
You got to take care of the boys.
Yeah. Okay. So let's. Talk about the cam lock versus
Oh, sure.
latch and link.
So we're talking a little bit about the latch and link. We also do a cam lock style belt. This happens to be our FIA belts. So they're FIA certified. They use a twist style cam, 45 degrees either direction. And again, we do them with either a 3-inch shoulder or a Hans style shoulder. They have a nice aluminum adjuster.
And to be clear, you can use a 3-inch belt with a Hans.
Yes.
But one thing that I've definitely found is a 2-inch belt. It makes it a lot easier to get yourself belted in because they slide very naturally into those cavities. Whereas sometimes a 3-inch belt wants to hang over. Yeah, grab that Hans.
I actually own an early style Hans device, and they this is maybe a mid one, but they now put a larger lip on the device. So some of the people would complain that maybe this would slip off or whatever. So a 3-inch tends to kind of hang off of it. So the 2-inch, I wear the 2-inch Hans style shoulder with this Hans device. So it does seem to be a little bit easier to work with. It's personal preference, because every head and neck restraint on the market says it'll work with a 3-inch belt. Here's the next gen. You can see a 3-inch belt goes in there, no problem.
Okay.
And really, we have we don't manufacture or sell any head and neck restraint, but I wouldn't get in a car without one.
Yeah.
So I'm not a proponent of any particular brand. In fact, I think you use this thing here.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of these, especially in a 3-point belt car. This one was in my bag, where it probably shouldn't have been, but the Simpson Hybrid. This instead of using the belts to anchor itself, the belts still do go over it, but most of the anchor comes from your torso. So if you're in a car with just street belts, these work out really well. Now I find in this car I still use the Hans because it gives me a little bit better mobility, just walking around with it, and it's properly belted. With 2-inch belts for the Hans. But if I'm doing any right seating, or if I'm doing anything in a street car, this is my choice here. And this also works fine with race seats, but the Hans is a little less obtrusive.
It reminds me, all of these devices do a great job of forward head restraints, or frontal head restraints. So in a direct head-on impact or slight angle, most of them don't offer a lot of help on a side impact. That's why you've seen the seats with the halos and the full containment seats. We make some like right side nets, or cage nets we call them, for inside the car. And when people ask, how do I know if I need one? Well, if you have a containment seat, you probably don't need one. But really, there's a rule of thumb. When you're in the car with your helmet on, head back against the seat, if your helmet sticks out beyond the bolster or the halo of the seat, then you should have a net. So if your seat stops here, and this is sticking out forward, you should have a net wrapped around going towards the dash.
Gotcha.
If you kind of got it mostly covered, then you probably don't need the net.
Talk about dates on the belts as well, because I know some of these belts are also, there's date tags on these.
Sure.
What's our lifespan on these?
And here's how that works. The reality of it is that belts used to be made out of nylon. Most everybody made belts out of nylon. Today we use polyester, and most manufacturers use polyester. Nylon breaks down from UV rays to the point where after 2 years of UV exposure, a nylon belt has half the strength it did when it was brand new. So the belts were designed to be good for 2 years, because beyond that, the strength just fell off dramatically. And everybody says, well, I don't race my car that much, it's not out in the sun that much, this and that, but there's UV rays from the lights in your shop. So really, it had to be based on worst case scenario. Somebody lives in Arizona, races maybe an oval track car, leaves it outside 365 days a year. That belt, after 2 years, is going to probably almost crumble. So that's where that 2 year came from. Polyester belts may be good for a little bit longer than that, but you can't really tell, the average person can't tell a polyester belt from a nylon belt. Some people still use nylon. So we're at that kind of 2 year cycle on belts. And, I know everybody says, oh, it's the greedy manufacturers, trying to sell, more belts, saying they're only good for 2 years. And trust me, at $79, we're still subsidizing the cost of these belts. But that's where that comes in, and so it's important to pay attention to dates. SFI's made some changes now. Actually, you pointed out our tag. That's an old style tag. The newer tags have an expiration date on them, just like the FIA belts do. FIA is a European standard. They tend to have a little bit different testing standard, and they say their belts are good for 5 years.
Yeah, we had a question about that earlier. Is there any physical differences, or is it just a different standard?
There's a different testing standard, and you write a check to FIA.
Okay.
But the reality is that they have that attitude that it's a European standard. Well, we don't race the cars as much, and they're not outside as much, and it's kind of an old school thing. And SFI and FIA have had a point of contention over that. We use the same webbing in our SFI belts as we do our FIA belts. If that answers your question.
You have to write an extra check to somebody.
Yeah, but it's important to the SCCA or NASA racer that says, well, I can use these for 5 years. They cost a little bit more from the beginning, but I'm going to get more use out of them. So.
Chad over here on YouTube wants to know if he can get a set of belts with 2 different shoulder straps, so he can switch the tops out. Will you sell somebody just a set of shoulder straps if they want to switch some stuff out?
They're going to have an extra lap belt and an extra crotch strap, but yes.
But yes, they absolutely. You'll have backups for all this stuff. So, all right, we are gonna give away a set of gloves in just a couple of minutes. So stick around for that. I'm going to end up in the next month or so with a set of these. These are.
You have to answer the question
these
first.
Are fantastic. Well, I know the answer already. But,
you don't even know the question yet.
That's
I'm going to change it now.
Oh God! So I'll just give you my American Express card. We'll work something out. But yeah, I think of all the stuff here tonight, these surprised me the most when I put them on, just to feel how different it felt without that seam in there. Mm-hmm. And again, I'll say it every time we talk about any of this stuff. You cannot go fast unless you are comfortable, unless you are distraction free inside a car. And there's nothing more distracting than having things on your hands that feel weird. So let's see if we missed any questions here. If anybody has any questions on any of this safety stuff for Paul, let us know. Oh, Zach wants a zoom in on the gloves. Here, I'll put it on again just because I like the way it feels. Right.
You can wear the pair?
Yeah. Well, they're different sizes, so this will mess with my OCD having 2 different size gloves. Actually, that's quite nice. Yeah, these external seam gloves, I never would have thought that would have made.
You notice the wear pads.
Difference.
If we put knuckle pads on them, padded knuckle pads, but on the palm there's an extra wear pad,
so if you get
and even
on
the thumbs. Even on the thumbs.
Oh, wow.
There's, if you flip it over on the palm and the thumb, there's an extra wear pad. So a lot of glove for $69.
Yeah,
and that's kind of a perfect example of what we do at Racequip, because we won't come out with that product until we know, hey, we got the product and we can hit the price point. So, we'll build X amount of thousand of them and drive that price down and make them available.
I feel like a hand model now too. All right, let's give a pair of gloves away. It won't be these because I've had my stinky mitts in them. But we're going to give a pair of gloves away, so get ready on Lucius is we forgot to set the shop clock back an hour when daylight savings. Oh, yeah. So Lucius saw our clock over here that's still. No, we didn't forget to set that clock back an hour when daylight savings ended. We were just too lazy to set that clock back an hour when daylight savings ended. We're waiting out daylight savings time is what we're doing in here. So yeah, we'll come another 6 weeks and that clock is fine. Don't you worry about it.
It's not even right twice a day anymore.
Yeah. So wow, yeah, it's true. We've somehow ruined that. So let's give away a pair of gloves. Patrick, what is our trivia question? Get ready, everybody.
You
Here's your chance
you
to win
decide
a pair of
how we're going to pick the
gloves.
winner, but the question is, what year was Racequip founded?
Yes. So we'll just go with the first correct answer on either. We're watching both YouTube and Facebook. So
How about this? Can we award first one on Facebook, first one on YouTube?
I love it. Let's
Two pair of gloves.
Wow, 2 pair of gloves. So I see. I should have entered. So yeah, we will give away 2 pair of gloves, one to YouTube, one to Facebook, and whoever gets that first,
Okay.
going to get a pair of gloves. Thank you very, very much for
It was
coming.
awesome.
This was awesome.
Wouldn't miss it. I love your bunker, by the way.
This is a lot of fun. Oh my God, we got a winner. Greg Jones on Facebook, and then who's got us on? Charles Mathis on YouTube.
Great job, guys.
So yeah, both you guys. I'll tell you what. Just email me tonight, and I will get the info. jg@grassrootsmotorsports.com.
If you
we got
go to racequip.com, pick out the part number of the gloves you want, email JG,
shoot
send them
me
your
an email.
address, we'll get them out to you.
And now that I've given my email address, I'm going to get a bunch of pictures of your sister naked. That's fine. I'm good with that. Congratulations. Tell me a little bit about before we go here. I can't let somebody come in here that's a fellow V8 enthusiast and not tell me a little bit about your TA2 car, your GT2 car.
So when they kind of revived Trans Am back in 2010, 2011, they came out with the TA2 series or spec, and it was a cost containment car.
Yeah.
And there's no such thing as affordable racing,
Right.
as we know. But it was a lot of bang for the buck, and you could buy a turnkey car for the time about $75,000.
And it's not really a spec car, but it's kind of a semi-spec
Yeah,
car
it's like
built to a limited
$500 per caliper, $800 per shock, things like that, so that people aren't going crazy. And the class, and most of the cars are built with a Howe chassis. I bought a Howe chassis kind of in pieces, and we kind of put it together in my brother's shop. But all to a spec to make sure nobody's car is too different than anybody else's. They do a good job of policing that, and really they're fun cars to drive.
So give me some lap times. Like what's a VIR lap time?
Well,
or,
I've been testing and racing at Road America.
Okay.
The top guys there, and I don't have the proper engine in it right now. That's one of the reasons I'm going to go TA racing, because when they said my bodywork wasn't legal, I didn't bother getting the right engine. But now that they said the bodywork's legal for 2 more years, we'll put the right engine in it. That is. They run the fastest guys, the young kids, they'll run maybe 2 minute 16, 2 minute, high 15, 16s at Road America.
So
it's a race speed lap.
That's an IMSA GT3 lap, just
yeah.
about basically.
Yeah, and it's they're interesting cars. It's kind of a momentum car.
Yeah.
That surprised me about it. It was all about carrying speed, through the corners, and it doesn't drive like a typical big horsepower V8 car where you've got 800 horsepower. You're just stopping, turning, and blasting through the corner.
Well, it's 500 or 600 horsepower, right? But but it's also got a lot of tires, so it's probably a car you can get
10-inch
you can
tire,
get full throttle on quite a bit. So
yeah.
that's cool. So what's your learning curve been like?
I have a crew chief / driver coach named Dick Danielson. He was a
that's
former IMSA champion and Trans Am racer, a really neat guy, and grew up. He was my idol growing up, actually,
Very
in the
cool.
Milwaukee area, and we grew up watching him race. He was always at the front of the field, and it's kind of funny how it came around that he's available. He's crewing on cars and stuff, so now he's helping me. And the amazing thing is he gets in the car, and he goes faster than me, lays down a lap. I get to go out there, work up to his time, and then I'm like, all right, you need to go back out and
Nice.
go faster. So it's been pretty cool.
Very cool.
It's really sped up the learning curve.
Yeah, well, we appreciate you building stuff out there for the average racer, and I've worn some of this high-end stuff. It's great, but at the end of the day, we all have jobs that we're not racing for a living. We got to be able to afford this stuff, and to know this stuff it was amazing. You were telling me that a lot of this stuff is built with the same materials, whether it's the high-end stuff or the more budget-friendly stuff.
I mean, the reality is that we cater to the end of the spectrum of racers, the entry-level racer, whether it's drag racing, oval track, road race, whatever, that, we know it's about price and it's about value. Yeah. So, we make sure that when we build a product,
so we got somebody shaking you down for a discount code over here. You got in those maybe you want to...
How about PAT10, PAT10?
Okay.
On our website, when you check out, you'll get a 10% discount and free shipping if it's over $60.
Look at that. Pat will call you.
I can't offer more than that because of our everyday low prices. I mean, we're already down at the bottom, guys. Come on. But your shakedown did work, by the way.
Yeah, very nice. Okay, and you guys email me about the gloves. We'll get you your gloves out. Patrick Gutt, thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
We appreciate it.
Thank you, guys.
Before you go, we've given you a lot of good info tonight. Here's how you can repay the favor is go to these folks, these folks with these logos down here, folks like CRC Industries, like Autobooks, Aerobooks. Patronize them. Let them know you are watching this show. Check out crcindustries.com. Even better, go to Lowe's, go to Home Depot, go to Harbor Freight, go to Advanced Auto Parts or Napa or O'Reilly, and buy some brake clean the next time you need some of that stuff. Buy some Power Lube the next time you need lubricant. Support the people that support these programs, support the people that support our sport. Check out Autobooks, Aerobooks out in Burbank. I really everybody who I've ever talked to who's had the chance to go there did not regret it. It's like walking into a museum, but you can give them your credit card and buy anything in there. It is an amazing repository of information, and it is a cool place to hang out. They have great events every week, cars and coffee events, cruise-ins, author signings. Check them out on the web. If you can't make it out to Burbank, autobooks-aerobooks.com. Next week, we are going to be putting an oil cooler on Big Blue right here with our friends from Improved Racing. Week after that, we've got some of your compatriots in the safety industry. Pat, we'll be talking about some of the safety stuff inside the car, roll cages and seat mounts and all of that stuff. Great stuff coming up here over the next few weeks, so please join us. Please hang out every Wednesday night at 9 p.m. Eastern here on Grassroots Motorsports Live. For Chris, behind the camera, our birthday boy. For David Wallens, over doing our social media. For Katie, who is home sick in bed. And our friend Patrick Gutt, I'm JG Pasterjack. This is Grassroots Motorsports Live. Good night, everybody. Remember to email me and get your free gloves. Who you won? Wait, one more question. Somebody wants to know if the visors from a 2010 helmet will fit on a 2015 helmet. So if we've got the bonus content, everybody.
Yes.
If we have an older spec helmet, we want to reuse some of our accessories.
Our Pro 15 helmet uses the same shield from SA 2010 to SA 2015. Awesome. We made a Sport Mod helmet in 2010 that did use a different shield.
Okay.
It was the same as the 2005 shield. So if you go to our website, racequip.com, there's a side-by-side comparison. So you want to look and see what exact shield you have, make sure you order the right one. And by the way, we do shields in, of course, replacements in clear. We do amber. We do mirror for the cool guys, and we do blue iridium, and not to mention just a regular dark smoke.
How about a cool visor so I can get that like Dale?
We're working on that. We're working on that.
That visor's where it's at, baby. All right, that's it. Good night, everybody. We'll see you next week.